Jenifer Lewis had always been that one person who filled every room with life. For more than 40 years, she made people smile just by showing up. Her voice, her humor, her boldness, everything about her felt larger than life. You won't believe how someone so full of energy suddenly slipped into complete silence. For years, people said she was the mother of Black Hollywood, the woman who never stopped shining. But one day, the light that everyone loved began to fade, not loudly, but slowly, almost quietly, as if she was trying to disappear without anyone noticing. At first, no one understood what was happening. Talk shows kept inviting her, but she stopped going. She refused speaking events without a single explanation. Let me tell you, this was not normal for Jenifer. She loved talking, laughing, performing, sharing her wild wisdom with the world. This is where it gets interesting. Her social media, which was always full of humor and joy, suddenly stopped updating. Days passed, then weeks, then more weeks. People thought she might be resting because for years she never took a real break. But deep inside, something didn't feel right. Jenifer Lewis was not the type who disappeared quietly. She never hid from her fans. She never backed away from the stage. Her silence felt heavier than usual. As time went on, her supporters started to grow worried. The blogs began posting headlines like, "Where is Jenifer Lewis?" and "Why has Hollywood's mother vanished?" Fans commented everywhere, asking the same question. Even actresses who always saw her at industry events whispered privately that they hadn't seen her in months. But here is the shocking part. Her absence didn't feel like a vacation anymore. It felt like something deeper, something she didn't want to talk about, something she didn't want the world to see. And slowly, the worry turned into fear. Hollywood also felt the silence. Producers who used to talk to her every day said her phone was suddenly unreachable. Directors planning new roles said she politely declined every offer without giving any reason. Her closest co-stars posted old pictures with vague captions like "thinking of you" or "forever grateful for your light." But none of them said anything clear. Their silence only added more confusion. What makes this story different? Usually when a celebrity steps away, their team gives statements, but this time there was nothing. Just quiet. And the quiet felt louder than a scream. Rumors started spreading everywhere. Some websites claimed she had retired secretly. Others made wild guesses about her health. A few careless platforms even wrote dramatic stories saying she was in a life-threatening condition. The craziest part was that none of these stories were true, but people still believed them because there was no answer from Jenifer herself. Fans from around the world wrote things like, "I hope she's safe," and "Please let her be okay." It felt like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for a sign, a message, anything. But behind all this noise, something else was happening, something no one knew about. Jenifer Lewis, the woman who always made others strong, had been fighting her own silent battle. For years, she carried the expectation of being powerful, funny, and fearless. People saw her as unbreakable, but they had no idea how much weight she carried inside. She ignored her own mental well-being to make others happy. She tried to stay strong even when her heart was tired. She forced a smile even when her body begged for rest. She hid a slow health struggle that drained her every single day. She never wanted pity. She never wanted to look weak. And so she suffered quietly until her silence became the only way she could survive. Her silence kept spreading like a shadow, and the strange part was that every new week made things feel even heavier. Producers, directors, co-stars, everyone kept waiting for her to return to normal. But Jenifer kept slipping further away from everything she once loved. Let me tell you, this wasn't just a break anymore. This felt like she was quietly running from something that had been hurting her for a long time. Even people close to her said she didn't sound like herself, and her voice, once loud and full of life, had turned soft, tired, and distant. Hollywood kept pretending everything was fine on the outside, but behind closed doors, people were confused. Jenifer had never been a person who avoided public life. She loved attention. She lived for the stage. But this is where it gets interesting. Her phone stayed off for days, then weeks. She ignored messages from her closest friends. She didn't reply to co-stars who reached out with worry. Directors who waited for her signature, yes, got gentle but empty replies like, thank you, but not right now. No reason, no explanation, just a slow fade into darkness. And here's the shocking part. The silence pushed the media to create their own stories. The tabloids published wild headlines like she had collapsed forever or that she was fighting something extremely dangerous. Some articles even said she had secretly said goodbye to Hollywood. None of it was true, but the lack of real information made every rumor sound believable. Fans panicked. They wrote, "We grew up with her. This can't be happening." People started watching her old interviews, trying to find clues. They searched for signs in her old pictures. They wondered if she had been hiding pain all along. During all this noise, Jenifer was fighting a battle no camera ever captured. She had carried the pressure of being the strong one for so long that she forgot she was human. She gave people laughter even when her heart felt heavy. She forced herself on stage even when her legs felt weak. She acted normal even on days when her breath didn't feel steady. For years, she pushed aside her own health because she didn't want anyone to worry and she didn't want to slow down. But destiny took an unexpected turn when her body began sending warnings she could no longer ignore. She felt tired in a way that sleep couldn't fix. Her mind felt overloaded. Her body felt heavier every day. But she kept pretending everything was fine until she couldn't anymore. Then came the night that changed everything. Jenifer had promised a close friend she would attend a small private charity event. She didn't want to disappoint anyone, so she forced herself to get ready, even though her body felt weak. When she arrived, everyone greeted her with love, but her closest friends noticed something was off. Her smile was slipping. Her eyes looked tired. She moved slower than usual, but she kept pretending she was okay, because that's what she had done her whole life. Backstage, just moments before she had to walk out in front of everyone, the room suddenly spun around her. Her hands shook, her vision blurred. She tried to steady herself, but her legs felt too weak. She reached for a chair before she collapsed completely, breathing fast and struggling to focus. It was her lowest moment, the moment when her body finally said, "No more." Her friends panicked and begged her to go to the hospital. But Jenifer refused. She didn't want the world to see her like that. She didn't want headlines saying she was sick, broken, or falling apart. She didn't want cameras capturing her weakest moment. So her friends quietly helped her leave through a private exit. People at the event thought she had simply left early. They had no idea they had just witnessed her breaking point. And what happened next was even heavier. Jenifer's health and emotional strength were being tested in ways no one could imagine. The constant pressure to perform to be the vibrant, unstoppable Jenifer Lewis had slowly taken a toll on her body. This is how a woman who seemed invincible started feeling exhausted from even the simplest tasks. She struggled with fatigue that no one could see, and things that used to bring her joy, like speaking at events or performing, now felt overwhelming. She kept pushing herself because she felt she owed it to her fans, her colleagues, and the legacy she had built. But her body and mind began to whisper a warning she could no longer ignore. The struggle was invisible, but it was real, and it was reaching a breaking point. Everything changed one evening at a private charity event. Jenifer had insisted on attending despite feeling unwell. She wanted to honor a friend and show support. But here is the shocking part. Just before she was supposed to make a brief appearance, she suddenly felt a wave of vertigo. Her hands shook, her vision blurred, and the room seemed to spin around her. She tried to push through it as she always did, but her body refused to cooperate. Her companions rushed to help her, and she softly sank into a chair, trying to steady her breath. She refused to go to the hospital, not wanting the world to see her at her weakest moment. No photos, no headlines, just silence. And that silence became her shield. After that night, Jenifer knew something had to change. She had spent decades giving herself entirely to her craft, but now her mind and body demanded that she stop. She realized she could no longer ignore the messages her body was sending. She had to step back, not for fame, not for anyone else, but for herself. The craziest part was that this decision came from a place of love for herself, for her health, and for the life she had neglected. She quietly reached out to her team and told them she would take a break. She didn't make any public announcements. She didn't want attention or sympathy. She simply needed space to heal. As days turned into weeks, the media noticed her absence. Reports began circulating that she had retired, that she was seriously ill, that something tragic had happened. Headlines screamed dramatic and untrue stories. This is where it gets interesting. A woman who had never hidden her life from the public now found herself the subject of rumors she didn't start. The internet buzzed with speculation, fans panicked. Even those closest to her felt powerless, unsure of what was really happening. The story they were reading was far from the truth. Jenifer was not gone. She was quietly reclaiming her life, away from the spotlight, away from judgment, away from pressure. During this time, she began to reflect deeply on her life, her career, and her personal well-being. She spent her days with loved ones, enjoying quiet moments she had never allowed herself before. She read books, tended to her garden, and gave herself permission to simply be. For decades, she had prioritized the world over herself, and now she understood the importance of choosing herself. Let me tell you, in those quiet months, Jenifer Lewis rediscovered peace, a kind of freedom she had never known while constantly performing for others. She realized that rest wasn't surrender, it was strength. She had survived the storm of public expectation, gossip, and personal pressure, and she was finally allowing herself to heal. Her silence, once misunderstood, had a purpose. It was a pause that the world misinterpreted as tragedy, but in reality, it was survival. Jenifer's absence was not the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she could finally care for herself as much as she had cared for everyone else. What makes this story different? Even in a retreat, she maintained her dignity, her strength, and her authenticity. She refused to let false narratives define her. Her choice to step back was brave, honest, and completely her own. After months of silence, Jenifer Lewis finally decided to speak for herself. She knew the world had seen her quiet as a tragedy, as if something terrible had happened. You won't believe how she calmly, honestly, and openly shared her truth with her fans. She wrote a long message explaining that she was not dying, that she was not facing a sudden catastrophe. She told everyone she had been dealing with fatigue, stress, and a slow-moving medical issue that she had ignored for far too long. She admitted that she had spent her life being strong for others, but had neglected her own well-being. This is how she explained that stepping back was not giving up. It was necessary to heal and find peace. Her words resonated instantly. Fans flooded her posts with love, prayers, and support. Celebrities, actors, and those she had mentored expressed gratitude, admiration, and relief. People realized that the rumors they had read were untrue. Jenifer's honesty sparked a wider conversation about the pressures of fame, burnout, and the importance of caring for oneself. But here is the shocking part. She had turned a period of misunderstanding and panic into a moment of inspiration for thousands, showing that even the strongest need time to recharge. She became a reminder that strength does not always mean pushing forward. Sometimes it means pausing and choosing life over expectation. Jenifer's story was also a reminder of her legacy. For decades, she had made people laugh, cry, and feel seen. Her performances, her voice, her humor, and her guidance had touched countless lives. The craziest part was that her absence made people appreciate her more deeply. Her silence showed the true weight of what she had given the world and the humanity behind the icon. Her career was ending, yes, but it was ending on her own terms, with dignity, honesty, and courage. She hadn't left the world, she had only left the noise behind. As she spent her days quietly, she found joy in simple moments she had long ignored. She read, she reflected, she cherished her friends and family, and she allowed herself the rest she had deserved for decades. Her choice taught everyone watching that fame, applause, or public admiration are not as important as peace, health, and love. This is where it gets interesting. Jenifer Lewis had turned what the world thought was a tragedy into a powerful lesson on resilience, self-care, and the importance of choosing oneself. She didn't just disappear, she redefined what it means to live fully on your own terms. In the end, the real tragedy was never her life or her health. The real tragedy was the loss felt by an era, the silence left behind by a woman whose voice had shaped so many hearts and careers. But her decision to step away was not weakness, it was strength. Destiny took an unexpected turn, transforming fear and speculation into admiration, reflection, and respect. Jenifer Lewis remained alive, strong, and at peace, leaving behind a legacy far greater than fame, headlines, or public perception. She reminded the world that choosing yourself is never a tragedy. It is the bravest act of all.